All right. 3, 2, 1, go. Jesse's back. We are going to do another video about Torchlight Infinite, specifically the, AI website effort. There's a lot to say, but I actually had a previous recording from earlier in the day that I transcribed and then asked AI to tell me what I talked about so that I can make it concise because these videos get a little bit long. First, talking about AI, I wanted to talk a little bit about what we're doing with Codex. We are not, at the moment, going to switch from Codex. We're going to use it probably for a little bit longer until we switch to something local. That's what this is about. Claude has been doing a ton of advertising, especially for me. I think it's giving me a lot of targeted ads. I see Claude ads everywhere, even on like the NBA broadcasts. It's just everywhere now. So I am expecting to download some open source version of something and start running AI from my own hardware because I really don't need, I just don't need to get caught up in the pro plan tokenization stuff. I think it's such a trap, and I already feel myself sinking into the trap where I'm sort of becoming reliant on the tools in the cloud. And I got to take advantage of some of the hardware that I have saved from over the years. I have basically two whole spare desktop PCs that I wanted to keep and use for something, and this is no better reason. So as far as Codex itself, we have so many. If you look at the hours marks here, look how many different prompts we've run just in the past couple of days. I mean, it is staggering. We are making aggressive use of Codex in our VS Code UI here. We're just hammering Codex. We're using the extra high reasoning. We've been doing planning mode a fair bit, which is Shift Tab, if you're curious what that is. Basically, you ask Codex to build a plan, and then you review the plan before it executes upon it. I find it's a little more reliable and consistent because it tells me a little bit more what it's going to do before it starts taking action. And I don't necessarily trust my own business requirements. Sometimes I give it the requirements, then it spits those requirements back to me, and we make sure that there's nothing confusing and there's no mistranslation before it actually makes changes to my data and my scripts. So we did a lot of changes to the Torchlight Infinite Hero Rank site today. We can actually take a look at it. Why not? While we're on the call. So we adjusted some of the user interface, made it a little smaller, a little more concise. And then we also included support for module skills, which if you look at a module, it's just a type of skill that is not actually registered in a traditional format in the data. It's treated as something that's not an item when the other things are actually items, like your skill gem that you're using when you use timid, like a curse. The actual gem itself is an item, and then these modules, these are not items. At least they're not registered as such in the mapping files, and so we had to do a little bit of a workaround, but we got it sorted out. We also we have 400 to 500 daily users. I mentioned this. There's a big surge of Steam players compared to past seasons. And I do think that there's going to be more support and attention on this game from the dev community, because I got in touch with a couple of people. Got in touch with Replic, who's the TLI Compendium dev. And he told me a little bit about the China tools and their development. They have stuff way fancier than this. But the unfortunate thing is that there is no API, and there's not expected to be an API. It's basically XD is not going to give us the same type of tooling that PoE Ninja or even somebody like Filterblade stuff. I mean, all of the data that the Path of Exile devs give, and the access that local tool creators and content builders, the data access they have is absolutely unmatched. Whereas our game client, we don't actually have an API, so we have very limited access to what's actually going on in the game on the server itself. And maybe that's for security reasons. I'm not sure. But either way, it does sound like it's a permanent policy from XD, so we're not expected to suddenly get an API tomorrow. Yeah, we added support skill filters. These were not visible or not present or not functional in the earlier versions. We had to add these today. And then the Boss Conquest thing, I'll show you all what this is. In the game client, there's a Boss Conquest right here. I've hardly played the game because all I've been doing is vibe coding. So I haven't actually made any progress on. I don't even think I've played. I haven't killed a single monster in like 2 days. I've just been vibe coding. But there's a ranking service here, and these rankings have what could be really valuable data for a TLI Hero Rank. We would have these IDs mapped and matched. Then we'd have these achievement times and the highest achieved Ordrak ranking or Boss Conquest level that you could get. And then the same thing applies for these other rankings in the Supreme Showdown. These are all rankings, they're all rankings here. And you can see how much progress people have made. The issue is that we cannot actually access those tables. Even when we made a lot of attempts, the log file was a dead end. We thought that we would be able to use the log file the way TI Track is, which is another Torchlight Infinite dev tool. But it's not available in the logs. It's not available in the cache. It's not available in a static format of any kind. So the only way we'd be able to access this in the code is actually with reading memory. And as soon as you start getting into the reading of memory, you're risking a ban. So I don't think we're going to pursue the Boss Conquest or Supreme Showdown rankings at this time. It may be something we revisit later, but I strongly doubt that XD will ever make that information available outside of the game client. I think we're just going to have to go to the game client to see that. And then my final thought is that I would like to eventually actually play the game. I don't want to just be fixing Torchlight Infinite Hero Rank. I think there's still a lot of work to do on the site, but at the moment, ideally, where it's stable enough to where all we need to do is roll in new snapshots as they come in, and we don't need to put a bunch of effort into rebuilding the entire data pipeline, which is what we've had to do a few times already. So I don't think all of it has been a waste. I mean, anything where I'm learning vibe coding and learning how to use these tools and kind of getting some experience and exposure, it's good. And I think it's constructive, but I don't want to be doing this exact thing with this same cadence where I find myself hours and hours and hours into bug fixing and cleaning and verifying and testing and building new requirements. Ideally, I want to move on and do a little more educational research into other tools and not just be hammering Codex. But I hope you all like the site. I hope you all like the updates. I'm pretty pleased with it. I was going to add a whole lot of images and make this sort of a beautified version that has all of the images of all the skills and all the images of all of these individual assets. But to be honest, I don't even know if I want to do that. I think if somebody's coming to this site, they are a data person and they're interested in the data and the numbers. That's what I'm interested in, is the numbers. I don't particularly care about anything besides just the raw numbers. And if I want to play the game itself and see the pretty colors and lights and click the buttons, then I've got to be in the game client itself. But who knows? Maybe we'll add a lot of stuff to the UI. But at this time, knock on wood, before I find out something else is totally broken, I think the site is in a pretty stable place. So I hope you all enjoy. Let me know if you have any feedback. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if you're going to try to develop stuff for Torchlight Infinite. I actually enjoy the game, even though I haven't played very much, and so I would like to see it succeed. But all that to say, thank you all, and yeah.